right, Chris Cuomo, it's all yours. Take it away.
All right. Chris Cuomo here. Welcome to NewsNation, where right and left come to be reasonable. All right? Here's my question. Why are we talking about Joe Biden? Is it really about genuine concern? I don't know. The current president just relayed to us that after his call with Putin, another great call, peace for Ukraine is as remote as ever. The message was that Putin is open to talks in general terms. Like, you mean before this phone call? We await reports to see if Putin repeats his pattern of going ham on the battlefield when there may be a ceasefire coming. At home, the stock market has recovered from Trump-induced trauma, but small businesses all over this country are either in crisis or fearing crisis. But what are we hearing about from our elected leaders in the cognoscenti, the Latin word for the smart people, right? The insiders, those who drive the news cycle and the dialogue? Questions about Biden's butt.
I think it's very sad, actually. I'm surprised that it wasn't, the public wasn't notified a long time ago, because to get to stage 9, that's a long time. If you take a look, it's the same doctor that said that Joe was cognitively fine. There was nothing wrong with him. A doctor was involved in each case. Maybe it was the same doctor, and somebody is not telling the facts.
What does he know about the facts? Seriously. What does he know about prostate cancer and what the diagnosis pattern was and how often Biden was going and what they knew in the past? And how would it have mattered in the presidency? The public should have been made aware a long time ago. Really, Mr. Transparency, like with the UAPs, when you promised us that we would get the information that Biden didn't give us and you gave us nothing? Like you said about the Kennedy files and the Epstein files, and we got nothing that really gives us what we need? That kind of transparency. Come on, an honest medical appraisal, like the one we got about the president, President Trump, the man we're told is my height and weight. Really? Really? The man who we were told is described by his doctors as a specimen with perfect health and incredible genes? Really? Really? Oh, well, but prostate cancer is much more important than just lying about his obvious corpulence. No, it isn't. It's prostate cancer. It's not brain cancer. We know what this is all about, right? These empty gestures of concern. It's all part of a ruse. It's an extension of the conspiracy du jour. Conspiracies, the great answer for those who don't understand. The Biden cover-up of fill in the blank. This bothers me for 2 reasons, okay? First, about the prostate thing specifically, okay? He just got a diagnosis that a lot of men his age get. Something like 80% of men who reach the age of 80 will get prostate cancer, assuming they get checked out, and many don't. Now, I know this because we're dealing with it in my own family, okay? Prostate cancer, they say the treatment works, and then you don't have them checked out that much because they don't want to go. They got 10 different doctors looking at them for 10 different things, and eventually they get back around to it, and what are you told? Cancer's back, and it's spread all over. And you have to balance the benefit and the burden of treatments on someone who's old and fragile, given this horrible reality of how much time is left at that age. Now, that's the reality for the Biden family. That's what he's dealing with. That's what we're dealing with in my family, and you probably are dealing with your own or, know somebody who is. It's hard on everybody, and I feel for the Bidens. I do. But this should not be a talking point. This is not politically relevant. It is not a cover-up. Don Jr. saying, whatever. I don't talk about the president's family. I get it. But the vice president, this is what he's trafficking in? Why isn't he touring cities that need artisans to figure out what the federal government can do to get back the men and women who build and maintain our country? Why isn't he out in Palm Springs trying to figure out how that community's doing after some psycho bombed a car and killed somebody? Why is he part of the chorus driving this distraction about Joe Biden's prostate? And then there's my broader beef, this growing narrative. Well, they were covering up covering up what? All this talk and now some book about how the White House and the media were all in on hiding Biden's decline. What was hidden about his decline? The writers covered what was going on with Biden in real time. They're from D.C. These people all hang out with each other. They go to the same parties. Their kids are in the same schools. What were they in the dark about when it comes to Joe Biden exactly? What was unclear to any of us? The book and all the MAGA folks, they don't have any no proof of some hidden diagnosis. I saw one saying, I heard he had a brain problem. Yeah, he does. And he did. Multiple aneurysms that we've known about for decades, just like his age and stage, were clear for a long time. When the guy was at his best, he was a gaffe machine. He was never eloquent. He had clearly diminished his capacities. When he ran in 2020, that's why he said he would be one and done. And when he broke that promise, that's why it was so controversial, because of his age and stage. And before you throw me in and say, oh, you know, just like Tapper and the other guy, you know, they're changing their tune. No, I'm not. Here's just a taste of my record on this obvious situation.
I think that Biden's age is a concern, okay? Biden's stage is a concern.
What's the biggest issue that he faces in the person-to-person matchup? It's whether or not he is up to the task. Is Biden dealing with diminishment? Of course he is. But stage is what the issue is. You have two old men who are past prime and not the best that America has to offer, and you know it. You know it.
Now let's start talking about what happens if Biden wins. You have a catastrophic concern. He's sick. Okay, someone his age could be sick. He has a medical catastrophe. He winds up being unable to do the job. Now we got a 25th Amendment situation.
So then what, you're going to accuse me of having known something? It was obvious. He's losing his faculties. He's losing his potential. It's his age and his stage. Look, the moment for any of this drama that's going on right now was after that debate. There was no denying that Biden wasn't up to what needs to be done on the debate stage, okay? And I took a lot of heat for saying so. Democrats were pissed at me because they were desperate to beat Trump. You're going to make Trump president. No, you're going to make Trump president because this is who you decided to put up. And these other critics, too, now who are like getting into this conspiracy thing. Oh, you're making just two. You're making too much of it. You should. I said what was obvious about Biden and Trump right after the debate. You looked at that stage. You saw a guy who's a sick man, and you saw a guy who's arguably a bad man on the stage at the same time. That debate was an embarrassment. And Biden is clearly past it. This is not a surprise. Biden is who we know he is. That's who Biden was at the debate, who we know he has been. He's not good. He's old and ailing. And I've been saying this for months. He is who you think he is. He doesn't move that well. He has a different energy curve, and he's not good on his feet. By the way, Joe Biden has never been great on his feet. He was a gaffe machine at his best. Not a medical mystery. Not a cover-up. All right? I mean, this is what he is, old and fading. We haven't learned anything else. You know, he had to make... Oh, you mean like with Reagan? That was a cover-up. That was a cover-up with Reagan, okay? This is what it is. And now they're trying to make it something else. Why? To destroy trust. That's why. To destroy any connection to anything but them. Okay? And I'm telling you, they don't need to do it, and it's killing us. I know that I'm right about Biden, okay? I know I am. I'm close to his guys, too, all right? And sure, they were polishing the apple a little bit about how involved he was. But you saw on The View, this isn't a guy who's lost his mind, okay? He's just lost his touch. I watched the smartest man I've ever met in my life go through this and lose his greatest gift, his mind. And it killed me to see what happened with my father. And there was no single disease or cause. There was no remedy either. And there was nothing to cover up. It was obvious. Just like with Biden. That's the process. Different rates for different people in different situations with different genetics and 100 other components. And let me tell you something. President Trump is showing his signs of age as well. All right? He's not my height. He's not my weight. He's nothing like me, okay? Probably for your benefit when it comes to being president. But physically, I'll take me over him. Remember, Trump didn't just become a focus of my existence like he did with everybody else in the media game in 2015. The first time I ever interviewed Donald Trump, I was a teenager. I recorded an interview with him for my brother's bachelor party tape. Okay, that's how long our families have been around each other. He's not who he was then, and that's understandable. Is Biden more diminished? 100%. 100%. It's not a comparison. I'm just saying I don't like how any of this is couched in this canard of compassion or given the grandeur of a conspiracy. If you didn't know that Biden had problems with his mental acuity, playing the part, you must have a health problem as well. This is not about Biden or his health. It's about exposing the other side and creating a perverse sense of an easy win for MAGA. And the media loves it. They love to blame themselves. They love it. It's the one thing the media does better than anybody else, is attack itself. We keep seeing this. Everything gets put through the same meat grinder of advantage. And if it works for you, great. And if it doesn't, you ignore it. It's about as ugly an example of situational ethics that I can think of. You have one set of rules for the other side and another for you. Teslas get lit up, MAGA goes crazy, claiming the media is covering up terrorist attacks. Again, I'm not the guy, okay? Listen. Why are people so quiet about this? Are you kidding me? They're blowing up the guy's cars because they don't like how he's with Trump? The same people who loved his EV pushing hiney? And now they're blowing up his cars? Now, how is that not terrorism? But an IVF center gets blown up in California, and MAGA's radio's silent until what? Comes out that the suspect is a lefty. Ah, well, you think they didn't know? They thought what I thought, what you thought, which is, blowing up an IVF place is probably some crazy right-wing extremist. Right? Some crazy, deluded Christian, or what they think is being Christian. Nope. It was a lefty, an anti-natalist. And I didn't ever hear of it either. This ideology that supposedly a lot of fringies on the left subscribe to. No more babies. Then MAGA comes out and claims he was a Democrat all along and that this is more proof that Democrats want to kill babies. The same with the Mexican naval ship that crashed into the Brooklyn Bridge over the weekend. You don't see in all those comments that if it wasn't a Mexican flag flying on that, they wouldn't have given a rat's ass? 2 died, a lot of others got hurt, but you know what it was about. You think if it had a British flag or a Norwegian flag, would have been the same deal? Same with Epstein. What happened, MAGA? Right? That was part of the conspiracy, right? Biden was in on that, wasn't he? Right? He was murdered, right? You heard Joe Rogan, right? And Kash Patel and Dan Bongino, MAGA-made men, come out and say what everybody else who investigated the situation, yes, there was problems with the cameras, yes, there was problems with the staffing, yes, this shouldn't have happened. Welcome to the incarceration system. But they come out and say he killed himself. MAGA goes silent. It's all a game. And here's why I keep pounding on it. It's killing us. No matter which side wins in the moment, we, the majority, we keep losing. 2 ways. We're losing a chance to have our collective concerns be the focus. There are small businesses all over this country that deserve the attention that Biden's fundament is getting. And we're also seeing that the majority loses interest in this dynamic. It's too crazy. It's too remote. These magnified minorities that dominate dialogue and they dominate the toxic two-party system. That's why you got to keep banging on it, because we have to kill it, because it's killing us. And we got to get back to being a country and fighting like hell with each other over ideas that help the most the most. Now, maybe I'm missing something about why this matters. Happens regularly enough. So I bring in better minds. Two people who I have watched and learned from when it comes to covering politics. Journalist, political analyst, insider extraordinaire of redoubtable acclaim, Mark Halperin, and NewsNation correspondent at large, Geraldo Rivera. Geraldo, hey. I have you here because I always want to hear where your head's at. Mark, I have you here because I've been watching your stuff. Congrats on the new projects. Wish they weren't with Megyn Kelly, but we'll leave that for another day. But you have been bothered by this because you believe that the media is missing what matters in this stuff and in the new book by Tapper and Thompson. What do you think matters here? And what did I get wrong, by the way, Mark?
Well, I agree with almost everything you said, including your dad was a genius. I disagree that the press loves to criticize itself. This is the biggest scandal in American media history, and there's no accountability. If people want to blame Joe Biden or blame the Democrats like Chuck Schumer, who didn't call Joe Biden out, the press's failure on this was manifest. You called out what your own eyes could see. The American people saw it, and the coverage was deny, deny, deny. And the reason it matters, Chris, is because we need to have credibility. If you want Donald Trump held accountable and scrutinized and have the public interest served, the press has to have accountability and credibility to criticize them. And what they did to cover up Joe Biden's loss of mental acuity was a scandal that they have not owned up to one bit.
You know, look, I can't disagree because he's too smart, Geraldo, but, you know, one of Mark's points is that Tapper was sitting there. The other guy, I don't know who wrote the book with him, but Jake, obviously, I know very well, and I would consider him the real deal. But the criticism is you were sitting there while all this was going, and now you're prepared. You know, now you're pretending that you're exposing it. Do you really believe that there was something hidden about Biden's situation, Geraldo?
Well, first of all, I love seeing your dad, and I remembered the nights we spent after I interviewed him many times on my Rivera Live show on CNBC. We go to Ellie's Bar on 79th Street and just hang out. It was great talking to him. I didn't notice any slipping of mental acuity. He just was charming, and he was almost naive about bar life. So it was wonderful, wonderful seeing him. You know, listen, I'm a sympathetic, well-meaning elderly man with a bad memory, just like Joe Biden. So I do have tremendous compassion for him. Mark condemns the media writ large, and I guess there's some truth and traction in that. But what does it matter? I just can't, and I'm sorry, and I understand how skeptical you are, Chris, of conspiracies, but I can't believe that the guy didn't have a rectal exam. You think that the President of the United States has the best health care of anyone on earth, and how do they miss prostate cancer? I lost my father-in-law to prostate cancer after a 7-year battle. It was terrible. But the one thing you knew is you took a PSA test or a rectal exam. You know, I can't understand why they didn't do that. Because it's so bad that they didn't do it. You're suspicious of what really happened. I believe, I just from my point of view, I'm not a politician. I'm a Republican. Is my registration. I can't believe that Biden was really running the country for the last year. It just seems to me that the aides and Dr. Jill Biden who propped him up, and it was like weekend at Bernie's. I think that it matters. I think that counts.
It matters if you were right. See, but Mark, that's my point. You know, they say, look at him on The View the other day. I'm telling you, my father, when Geraldo was interviewing him, was not what happened later on with this attrition that I saw. That guy on The View is not exhibiting Alzheimer's. He hadn't lost it. That's the part of this I don't get. What was covered up, Mark? What was covered up exactly? What don't we know that we should have known?
Nothing, Chris. He had, like many people on decline, good days and bad days. Had a long talk. I had a long talk for my podcast with Joe Scarborough about this, and Joe and I have talked about this for 7 years. He had good days and bad days, and the people on the right who want to say, I would say this respectfully to Geraldo, People want to say he wasn't running the government. There's no evidence of that. Might be true, but there's no evidence of it. And the man on The View, the man who gave the State of the Union address, the man who had plenty of good moments, was running the government as best we can tell. He also had a lot of bad moments, and you didn't need to be an insider to know that. This is why I find the book that your friend Jake wrote to be a little bit confusing. You didn't need inside sources. You just needed a C-SPAN subscription to see his decline on his bad days, not just in the debate. Everything that happened in that debate has an analog from the entire Biden presidency before the debate. And so I'm looking for the truth about what happened rather than the extreme left version or the extreme right version.
Mark, your new platforms are great. The conversations that you're having with people, tell people quickly where they can get your new products.
One thing I do is a company called Two Way. You can go to twoway.tv on YouTube or on X, and you can see shows all throughout the day where we bring people in to create authentic community. And then my new podcast on Chris's favorite, the Megyn Kelly Network, is called Next Up. And you can see all sorts of guests there, Tuesdays and Thursdays, new episodes on YouTube and wherever you get your finer podcasts.
Don't let it rub off on you too much, Mark. You're a nice guy.
I'm working hard. I'm working hard trying to make a buck, Chris.
Well, that she's good at.
Chris is covering up my cognitive decline.
You don't have, but see, look,
Chris, you're
Geraldo,
covering.
Would I want to see you go toe-to-toe with the Geraldo who introduced me to television, who I watched direct and do 9 different things at once on TV? No, but that was then. And he didn't know what you know about life. And I'm fine with all of it. I'm just saying I don't get the conspiracy. Biden is what you see of him. I don't know about anything else that's disease-oriented, and it's just, I just feel like we're being played. That's all. But I got to jump. Dusty's yelling at me, and there's no cure for that either. Geraldo Rivera, I love you. Mark Halperin, congratulations going forward. I look forward to talking to you again.
Good to see you both.
Appreciate your perspective. Say hello to Megan.
I will.
4 minutes and 35 seconds. Coming up, another one of the 10 inmates who broke out of a New Orleans jail was just captured. Now, there are 6. Now, here's the problem. Once they know that guys are getting caught, there is increased desperation. This is what we know, all right? There is a psychology to this. Armed and dangerous, on the loose, now desperate. How'd they get the last guy? Who's helping them? What are they worried about? Inside Scoop. All right, let's get a quick update here. Just breaking just a few minutes ago, all right? Another one of the 10 inmates who escaped that New Orleans jail on Friday, captured. That leaves 6 at large. 3 have murder charges, okay? So that is going to be a very high level of desperation. The inmates picked a jail cell lock, sawed a hole through an opening behind a jail cell toilet. It was like Shawshank Redemption times 10. Left a final message for their jailers before their escape, writing on a cell wall, "Catch us when you can," and "too easy, LOL. Words they will regret." Joining us now, former FBI agent Jennifer Coffindaffer and former Orleans Parish Sheriff Marlin Gusman, familiar with the jail and the area. It's good to have you both. So, as you said, Brother Gusman, they will be catching them, but it's coming slow. And I made a comment before the break that I want your take on. As they hear that guys are getting caught and they're out there longer and not getting away themselves, desperation increases. True? And if so, how does it change the recipe?
Well, I think the desperation does increase. But on the other hand, Chris, the rewards have increased. So now we have a $20,000 bounty on each one of them. That's going to make more people talk. It's going to make more people respond. And they're going to get results. That, along with the tough police work that they're doing, they're going to get results. They're going to get them.
And the clue seems to be so far, Jennifer, what do we know about this last guy they caught and how police are making ground?
Well, when you look at all these guys, they're going to be going where they're comfortable, where they know people. People are harboring them. I mean, they are in street clothes, even the ones that were captured early. So they have a lot of help. They're going to be dialing down on friends and family and places they would seek refuge. That's where they're going to find them. And I believe that's where they got this guy.
They got him. So it's as basic as that, that even though you know they're going to go looking where you're from and who you know, that's where they go anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. They don't have much money. They don't have necessarily vehicles. And those are the people that are going to help them. That's their network. That's where they're comfortable. That's what they know.
Marlin, give me your take on it, and what's your biggest concern?
Oh, my biggest concern is that no one gets hurt during this process. As you said, they're desperate. And you're facing a life sentence. You're gonna be desperate. But look, they're neighbors, they're community members. They see what's going on, and tips are coming in a whole lot, and they're gonna get caught. I'm convinced of that.
Dusty just told me that the video we're showing the audience right now is of the inmates. Both of these guys are inmates in street clothes, or are these the guys who were captured, or these guys who are still on the loose?
I think one was captured, one's still on the loose.
Okay, thanks. You guys had to give me the answers because the control room, I got 50 people in there. Nobody said anything to me. You know why? Because they don't like me. But you do. Marlin Gusman, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Jennifer Coffindaffer, as always, appreciate the help. Hopefully they catch more of these guys and they don't hurt anybody else. Thank you very much, both. All right, so that update real quick again. Those guys who escaped from the jail in New Orleans, all right, there were 10 of them. They just got another one, so you still have 6 on the loose. We're just showing video. One of those guys got picked up. One of them hasn't. We'll stay on it. 4 minutes and 30 seconds. Today, start of week 2 of the Sean Diddy Combs trial. Now, we get what the prosecution believes now. The prosecution believes that they have to convince this jury that everything that happened, all the freaky of the freak-offs, was because Combs insisted that it happened. Okay? Now, I'm going to take you through the state of that case, and I have one of Combs' oldest and best friends. More than 30 years, was with Combs the day he got arrested. What does he make of the allegations? What does he make of the trial? Next. Sean Diddy Combs, week 2. Prosecution called 3 witnesses, all backed up Cassie Ventura's claims of being physically abused by then-boyfriend Combs, which made her too scared to leave him. That last part is the key to the charges. Also, photos shown in court last week were made public today of injuries Cassie sustained allegedly at the hands of Combs. Swollen lip after that 2016 hotel fight. That's not surprising. Also made public today were photos from inside the New York City hotel room where Combs was staying right before his arrest in September 2024. The hotel room was strewn with bags filled with drugs, prescription bottles with Diddy's alias, Frank Black, on them, a fanny pack with $9 grand inside of it, lots of bottles of baby oil and lubricant. NewsNation's Caitlin Becker inside the courthouse today joins me now. Thank you for doing this. I know you had a long day. Take me through what mattered.
It was an intense day today, Chris. Jurors heard about just how violent the relationship between Cassie and Combs was. Cassie's former best friend, Carrie Morgan, took the stand and painted a picture about how rough it was between the two of them. But, Chris, I think what sticks out the most today and what will likely stick out to the jurors is the reason Carrie Morgan says she is no longer friends with Cassie Ventura. They have not spoken since 2018, and Morgan told the jurors that she was allegedly attacked by Combs then. She said that he choked her from behind, and painting a really vivid picture, said that he boomeranged a wooden hanger at the back of her head. Now, she told the jury that she accepted a $30,000 payout from Combs via Cassie to keep quiet about it, sign an NDA, and not sue. And I have to tell you, her testimony needed to do a lot of heavy lifting today after former Danity Kane member Dawn Richard finished up her cross-examination, because she was a big win for the defense, Chris. I mean, they really eviscerated her credibility on cross-examination. They peppered her with inaccuracy after inaccuracy with her testimony, compared to things that she had said in previous interviews. So Morgan's testimony was really, really key today in doing that. And looking ahead till tomorrow, Chris, we're expecting Cassie Ventura's mom to take the stand, as well as one of the escorts who participated in these freak-offs that we've heard so much about. And I know that's going to be interesting because, Chris, he goes by the moniker The Punisher.
Oh, that's good. I like the TV show. I hope I like the testimony. Caitlin, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Look forward to the update. All right, so let's get perspective now, okay? Combs' friend of more than 35 years, all right? The idea that you don't know somebody after that amount of time is an impossibility. The question is, will he be truthful? Charlucci Finney, it's good to have you.
How you doing? How you doing?
I'm doing well. Appreciate you taking the time. I see by what you're wearing that you are a strong supporter indeed of Diddy, as you have been since this first started. First, respond to this main idea. Sean is rough. He hits women, and you do what he says, or he will punish you. And that's why Cassie and others were not willing participants at the freak-offs. What do you make of that suggestion?
Like you said, it's a suggestion, and that don't make it a fact. That just make it a suggestion, like you just said, my friend.
Why isn't it a fact?
Because it hasn't been proven that's a fact. It's a suggestion. Someone said something, right? You have to follow behind it, and you have to hear two parts to it. So what you're saying is what, this was heard. That's it. There's no facts to it.
But you tell me, from your experience.
Right.
Was the Cassie a one-off, or is your friend somebody who's got a problem with hitting women? Did he make people do things they didn't want to do? You would know the answer, Charlucci.
Okay, so a one-off. I don't even know him to hit women. That's one, right? And after what I've seen, right, my friend was in a toxic relationship with another person that was obviously toxic. Based on what we're seeing, they both admitted to doing drugs, right? And I can't say one-off. Anyone that's enough. Hitting one person is enough. So it's not about 3 and 4 and 5, 6 and 7. One person is enough. And nobody should put hands on nobody. A man shouldn't touch a woman. A woman should not touch a man, especially in a violent manner.
And you're saying you never saw him hit any women?
Never.
idea that people...
I'm a father.
Go ahead, please, Charlucci.
I'm a father of two daughters, right? So I wouldn't be here wearing this shirt if I've ever saw any one of my friends, especially him, hit a woman. And it would never happen in front of me. And I've never seen it, never heard it. And seeing it, yeah, it was a lot to take in, but I knew that wasn't him. It looked like, like I was saying, drug-induced, high, or whatever you want to call it. But that's not the Sean that I know. That you see in the hallway.
The idea that the freak-offs, people had to do it because they were afraid of Sean Combs.
I don't believe that. They were consenting adults. How you gonna make a ex-worker fly in town or come to somewhere and leave unharmed, unscathed? Like I've never heard of nothing like that in my life. These sound like willing participants to me.
Have you been in touch with your friend while he's been in custody?
Yes, I have.
How is he holding up during this process?
Well, it's a lot. It's a lot, because he's worried, he's concerned about his family, his children, his mom, his sisters, his nieces, and his nephews. Like, he's just focused on getting this behind him.
So that's interesting.
Yeah.
When the feds are coming after you, they rarely miss. How burdened is he that if they want to get him, they're going to get him? And how does he process that?
It have to be something to get. You have to have sex trafficking. You have to have racketeering. All I've been hearing is domestic violence. That's all I've been hearing.
Has he talked to you at all about what happens if they make the case and he loses?
No, he's not thinking like that. We stand prayed up. That's what we're doing. We stand prayed up, and the evidence is going to show that he's not guilty of these crimes that they're alleging.
He's not having those mind games of what happens if I'm in here for the rest of my life?
He's not thinking like that. Well, I think like that. You would have to actually do the crime to do the time, right? So we 1,000% are in belief, and we know that he's innocent. They have to prove them charges.
So people are watching this right now, right?
Yes, sir.
Let's assume they're open. They only know this guy as the superstar that he is, and you know what they have heard about him. That he was having these parties, he was bringing people in from all over the place. Some of them wanted to be there. The allegation is some of them didn't want to be there, or they were sexually abused by him, and they couldn't say anything because of how powerful he is. Okay. What do you want them to know about the man that you know?
He didn't bring anyone in. If you was following the case, and I'm quite sure you have, Chris, Cassie brought the people in. Cassie, that's what she did. So a sex worker never said that Sean brought them anywhere, did anything. And as far as being scared, that's just mind-boggling to me. I don't believe that at all. Everybody was willing, consenting adults. And this is what his defense team is going to show and prove.
Charlucci, I appreciate you coming on to give this perspective. It's important for the audience, and you know how to get us if you have anything that you want to say.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much.
All right, appreciate you taking the opportunity. Let's take a break. 4 minutes and 15 seconds. Up next, Trump was so optimistic after his 2-hour phone call with Vladimir Putin that he says, hey, I think that they want to have negotiations to end the war immediately. My next guest says, you got to understand the difference between what's said and what's meant. What does that mean? Next.
Big egos involved, I tell you. Big egos involved. But I think something's going to happen. And if it doesn't, I'd just back away, and they're going to have to keep going. I said, when are we going to end this bloodshed, this bloodbath? It's a bloodbath. And I do believe he wants to end it.
President Trump and Vladimir Putin had a 2-hour call today. Trump's take, you just heard some of it there. What he posted was Russia and Ukraine will immediately start negotiations toward a ceasefire and, more importantly, an end to the war. My next guest doesn't buy it. He has my respect. He has the guts to be an opposition politician. He was jailed for it by Putin. Vladimir Karamurza. Vlad, great to see you. Thank you for joining me, as always.
Good to be back in your program, Chris.
What do people have to understand about Putin saying, sure, I'll sit down?
Look, I think Mr. Trump is being very skillfully played by Vladimir Putin here. If you look at the two readouts of this 2-hour-long conversation today, or what has been told afterwards, they sound like the accounts of two totally different conversations, because President Trump was very optimistic, as in that clip he just played. He said there'll be immediate talks on a ceasefire, there's going to be an end to this war. Whereas if you listen carefully or read the transcript of what Russian dictator Vladimir Putin said today, these were just general and meaningless words. There was nothing new, there was nothing concrete, and it was nothing promising. Because, it's very clear what's Mr. Putin's strategy here. He wants to drag on these talks about talks and negotiations about negotiations and meetings for the sake of meetings, while he continues to advance as he sees it on the battlefield. But of course, he also wants to preserve his special relationship with Donald Trump, because that is his way out of international isolation. That is his way back into international legitimacy, which he most certainly does not deserve as a usurper and dictator that he is. That's his ways back into the international economy and trade. And in fact, if you read Donald Trump's readout today, he specifically mentioned that one of the things he promised Putin is a renewed trade relationship between Putin's Russia and the West. And so this seems to be Putin's strategy. This seems to be Putin's tactics. But, for once in my life, I actually do agree with something that Vladimir Putin said today. He said this war is going to continue until the root causes, as he termed it, are addressed. Of course, what he means by that is basically a capitulation of Ukraine. No NATO membership, no foreign troops, cede territories, even those that Putin's army hasn't occupied yet. But, in a sense, and unwittingly, Putin's actually right. This war will continue until the root cause is resolved. And the root cause of this war is a Soviet KGB officer who's been sitting in the Kremlin for the past 25 years, who's dreaming about the past glory of the Soviet Empire, who's openly nostalgizing about the time of Stalin and Andropov, who's referred numerous times to the dissolution of the Soviet Empire as the, quote, greatest geopolitical catastrophe of the 20th century, and who has brought back so many horrendous Soviet-era practices, both when it comes to domestic repression, internal repression in our country, in Russia, and external aggression towards other countries like Georgia, Ukraine, or intervention in Syria on the side of Assad. And so for as long as Vladimir Putin remains in power, yes, there will be war. There will be war in Ukraine. There will be war on European soil. The only way to end this war is to have a democratic Russia. The only way to ensure long-term peace, stability, and security on the continent of Europe is to have a normal, peaceful, democratic political system in Russia, not this aggressive regime.
But Vlad, what can the United States do to make that happen?
Well, certainly the exact opposite of what's been happening in these last few weeks and months of the current administration. When you see the United States shutting down, for example, its international media broadcasting operations. You know, Russia has a total censorship now, including internet censorship. The only way for people inside of Russia to find out what's actually happening, including in the war in Ukraine, is from those independent media voices that come from abroad, including such media as Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberty, or Voice of America.
Right.
Both, as you know, were shut down by the Trump administration a few weeks ago. The
not
entire system
helpful.
of democracy and human rights assistance, with regard to Ukraine, with regard to Belarus, with regard to Russia, with regard to other countries living under authoritarian regimes, have been terminated.
Vladimir.
You know, only Russians can change the situation in Russia. It can't be any other way. But it is important that the free world stands in solidarity with those people in Russia who want to see our country becoming a normal, peaceful, democratic state. What we see now in the United States, unfortunately, is the opposite.
You always have a platform here, Mr. Kara-Murza, to make the case. Vladimir, stay safe, and I'll be in touch. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
We'll be back. You know, it's an interesting little test. I didn't come up with it. But if you want to see if politics are about you or about just advantage of one side over the other, just ask. Every time you see something boiling up, is this about the other side being worse or making the country better? And those two things rarely take you to the same place. Leland Vittert starts right now.
I was ready for a test of some type. Is that it?
You pass every night, brother.
Thank you, my
pass every
friend.
night.
Thank you, my friend.